Welcome to the Finch Keeper. This is part 2 of the hand rearing mix. I tried not to cover too much in the last one. I know it did go on for quite a bit, but I didn't want to cover too much because I wanted to save some for this second part of the video. Some of the items that you're going to need I've got all behind me, such as a coffee grinder, pestle and mortar, obviously the seed, honey, biscuit, a hand rearing mix, which is pre-bought, probiotics or electrolytes, whatever you want to call them. No, it's probiotics. Liquid calcium, guardian angel, and polyaid. Now these are just some of the items that you'll need. Obviously you'll need a little mixing dish. You're going to need, definitely going to need a 1 ml syringe, a needleless one. Don't get one with a needle. Whatever you do, make sure there's absolutely no needle whatsoever. You'll probably want to get one of these, which is a crop feeding tube, which is a rubber thing on the end, and that's an attachment that goes onto your needle. That's what you're going to need. You can buy them online pretty cheap. I mean, they're a couple of pounds. They're a lot. They do charge more than they're actually worth. They're not really worth that much, but really only worth a couple of pennies. But I mean, you can get them cheap enough. And if you wanted to go further, you could buy the wherever I put it. You could buy you could buy a meter of the stuff that goes on the end. I got that from China. It's just as good. I think it's 1 ml diameter on the inside and 3 ml on the outside. So that was only £1, funny enough. In England, they wanted to charge me nearly £5 for that. So the only difference was I had to wait a little bit longer. You'll also need an 18 ml crop needle. When I say needle, it's not really sharp. It's got a little metal bubble on the end, so it's quite harmless when it goes into the bird's crop or down its throat. Now they're quite expensive. You can pay quite a lot of money for them. You can get the curved ones or the straight ones. Now I prefer the straight ones because I know exactly where the needle is going to be when it's going into the throat or into the crop. These are more for professionals. Vets normally use them, so I mean, I'm very familiar with using these and very experienced, so I know exactly what I'm doing. If you're not sure and you're a bit, you're not quite sure whether you could handle something like that, you're probably better off with something like this, which is far less aggressive. Well, it's not really aggressive. This is used really to give put medication into a bird, or to take a crop sample out, or you can put very fine fluids or liquidized food into a bird in a hurry. But you wouldn't get anything grainy through there. Anything that's got like pretty large chunks in there, it will just clog it up. So this is mainly for liquids. It's good for taking, like I say, crop samples if you want to look at it on a microscope, like I do quite often. I'll say for them, I think I paid about £15, £18 for something like that. I mean, then you get your postage and packaging on top, depending where you get it from. No, you have to be careful with some of them because they're not real stainless steel. But if you can, make sure you get a proper stainless steel so it doesn't rust. And then you have to clean them on the inside thoroughly, before you use them and after you use them. You can do what I do: get a little pot, fill it with Dettol, and you set the whole thing inside the Dettol, and you can dilute it. Obviously, I think I use about 10% solution, so it's 10% Dettol and 90% water. Or you could make it stronger if you wanted to. You can use bleach, you can use Virkon S, whatever you decide you want to use as your sterilising. But you need something quite good, and then you just leave it sat in there until you want to use it again. But make sure you thoroughly wash it out before you use it. The same with them, same with all of it. Except mind you, these you only use them once for that day, then you throw them away and you just use another one. These are literally pennies. You pick them up 5 pence in the UK. Depending where you get them. If you get it from a chemist, they may charge you 50p, because they want to make their profit on that. Right. Another thing you will need to get, I did mention it on the last video, This is just a screen mesh. You don't get all this with it when you buy it. All it is just a sheet of metal with holes in it, and it's a 60. It's called 60 mesh in the UK. In other countries like America or Canada, they would say that would be 250 micron. So, and you get these from eBay. Again, they're 15 centimeters by 15 centimeters. That's the size that I bought. You can get bigger or smaller, I believe. I made this, so I made the frame out of wood and just coated it with a metal-based sticky, like a sticky foil, basically. And you put your ground up seed in there, or your ground up biscuit, or whatever it is you're grinding up. You put it through there, and then it will come up nice and fine. You get no chunks, and the reason for that is because it will pass through that much easier, and it better digests it quicker as well. You might find that it's a little bit chunky for this, for the actual needle, so that's why I would use the finer one. But to be honest, I find a lot of this do go through there with little problems. I've never really had a problem, but there is that possibility that it could clog that. So, but it should be alright. I've had no troubles with it as such. If you do get that problem, you get food, don't force it through, just retract it and push it through again. If it keeps getting clogged, and empty it and take a new load and try it again if you are using a cotton needle. Again, I will highly stress that is a cotton needle and that is a copper tube. There's a big difference between them. And as I say, it has a metal bobble on top, so it's nothing sharp, so it doesn't hurt the bird in any way. This is basically crushed down seed, which I've already made. So some I prepared earlier. This is your seed as it is. You want a good quality seed. You don't want, this is a foreign finch mix, and it's quite a good brand. I don't know what brand name is. I think this is Versatile Lager. Let's say you're going to want some honey as well. I think I've already explained that. Right, the reason why I've got a coffee grinder and I've got a pestle and mortar is because some people can't afford a coffee grinder. Some countries don't even have electric, so I don't, if you can't afford or you don't have a coffee grinder at hand and you need something in an emergency, you just use a pestle and mortar. Maybe you could borrow one from a friend if you don't have one, and keep crushing the seed down. Now, when you've crushed it and you're happy that you've crushed it enough, you run it through put it all in the middle, and use a spoon or something just to move it around and collect it on a newspaper or something, or over a dish, a large bowl, because it can get quite messy. Don't be too aggressive with it. Don't force it through neither. Just roll it around and just keep rolling it. It could take you a while, so you want to make a good batch up first, and then you'll still have a big mound in there. When you find it stops coming through, you can put it through the grinder or your pestle and mortar again and grind it some more, and then just keep repeating the process until you think you've got enough. And then when you run out, you can just crush some more seed down and just keep going. That's what I've done. Just kept going and going until I had something in case I needed an emergency. I've got some already made up. Now, it depends really on what the problem is with your bird. You're thinking, well, you don't need all of this in one go to make your hand-rearing food. Now, you're probably thinking, well, that's a lot of stuff. But it depends really on your application. If you're treating a sick bird, depending on what's wrong with the bird, I mean, you may need to use something like this. Now, if you're using Guardian Angel and Polyade together, I always use these together. You have to make sure about other medicines because they may be a conflict. So check first before you do use these that if your bird is on other medication, that you can use this, that there's no conflicts. So that's something very, very important. If you have a bird, a hen, which is egg bound, you can make all your food up, and then you can put like literally one drop of this, which is liquid calcium, into the food and mix it all up. That will pass through the crop tube, no problem whatsoever, because it's just a liquid. You only need one drop though, literally, because it's quite powerful stuff. And then you just feed it to them throughout the day until she passes the egg. Then you put her on the liquid calcium as instructed on the bottle. Now, when you mix this, you probably want, which I haven't got ready at the moment. So if I was going to mix this, I'd probably say this. I'm just showing you. If I was to treat a little sick bird now, I'd put 1 scoop in there. Might depend on how much I needed, really. Or if I was hand rearing a young bird, I would crush down some biscuit, and again, I'd run the biscuit through here to make sure there's no chunks whatsoever, and then I'd collect up a good portion, and then scoop out again 1 teaspoon in there, mixed together, and then I don't have any made up at the moment. I should have thought about that before I started the video. Now you wouldn't need anything like this, and like an electrolyte. If you're hand rearing a young bird, you don't need anything like that. You don't need polyage. You don't need nothing like that neither, because it's just only nourishment that you're after. So you would always need this. You can add a drop of honey if you need to. Not that you really need to. You can add, ideally, if you're hand rearing young chicks, the only difference is the age. So the younger the bird, the more runny it is. The older it is, it will be more thicker. So as the bird gets older, you make it a little bit thicker each day, so that it's more solid. But they do make sure it's got plenty of water in there, or else it will dehydrate. Right, if you're mixing it for rearing chicks, you use equal part of seed, an equal part of biscuit, and then if you wanted to, you can put egg white in there, fresh. Now, you might be thinking, oh no, it has to be cooked. That's actually quite rubbish. You don't have to cook it, because if you cook it, you can have troubles getting it through the tubes. You definitely have trouble getting it through that one. If you put it in there when it's liquidized, it won't hurt the bird. You have to remember that birds eat their own eggs anyway quite often, and it's usually the white that they eat, not the yolk, although they will sometimes eat the yolk, because the white contains a lot of nutrition, and once it's cooked you lose a lot of that nutrition. Now there has been debates about it saying, oh, you shouldn't be giving them like uncooked stuff, and that's a load of rubbish, because I've seen many people online saying, oh, my birds, they've eaten all their eggs and stuff. Why do they keep doing it? They eat in the shower as well. It's because they're lacking in stuff, like calcium and other minerals. So it doesn't harm the birds to give it to them at all. So in fact, the chick will live on that as it's growing in the shell, when it's surrounded by the egg white, and then it thrives off of that as it grows bigger inside the shell. So you can give it to them straight in there directly, straight from a chicken's egg. Crack it, make sure it's fresh that day. Take it out, add an equal amount. So you got 1 teaspoon, depending on how much you're making, but you use 1 part crushed seed, 1 part crushed biscuit, 1 part liquidized egg white, and you mix it all together, and then you add a little drop of water. Keep mixing the water until you get the texture you want. You can add hot water, but preferably you want warm water, because you don't want to cook the egg white. And then basically you just add the warm water, just keep turning it until you get the thickness of the texture that you want. And then when you're ready, make sure it's the same temperature, if you can, as the bird. You want the body temperature, and then you suck it up all the way. I usually take it off first, and then fill the syringe with the solution, put that on, and then I push it out until it starts coming out the end. Then you can feed your bird. I don't have any birds at the moment to feed, so I'm just going to improvise really. So you just put the thing weight it down into the crop. You'll feel it. It's usually just below the neck, around here, on this side, not that side. It's on the bird's right side. So that's where it goes until you put it all the way down until you feel it. Doesn't matter the age of the bird, that will reach any age, and that's about an inch, just over, maybe a tiny bit over an inch, and they don't mind. And when you put it in, don't just, like I've seen videos of people online, and what they do is they put it in crop and like that. You don't feed a bird like that. You don't know you don't know if the bird's crop is full or empty. Technically, it may not have digested the food that you put in a couple of hours ago or an hour ago. So you put the food in slowly. I mean, you don't want it. You don't just want it to shoot in, because if you overfill it, it may go into the lungs and the air sacs, and then you'll just drown the birds. So you always do it slowly. And if it's a very young bird, you won't need all that anyway. You'll only need probably just a few milliliter of it. So that's important. Very. If you have a sick bird, it isn't very well at all, and it needs it's losing weight, and you don't know what's wrong with it. What you could do is give them some probiotic. Add a little bit of probiotic in that. Yeah, you only need a little tiny bit. It will tell you on there how much to add per litre of water. 2.5 milligrams per 500 milligrams of water. So you get the same strength, but you're making up less of it. And then what you do, after you've mixed it really, really well, you syringe out how much you want, and then you add it to the food and then stir it. That way you've got the right amount of dosage per the water that's going in there. You're not overdosing them. So that's a good way of doing it. If you hear any howling noises, it's because it's the wind. We've got pretty bad weather at the moment. It's snowing outside and it's blowing a gale. Right, if you're really, really lazy and you don't have much money, or you just generally just can't be bothered to do all this stuff, you can just go out and just buy hand-reared food, which is already made up for you. But the trouble is, it's been sat in the shop for I don't know how long. Once you open it, you've got to use it straight away, and it's expensive. The only thing is, you just add hot water to it or warm water and mix it up, and it's ready to go. But I don't like using this stuff. This is Katie's extract. I mean, it's quite popular, but I always find when you buy it in the shop, you don't have much time left on it anyway. And then by the time you've opened it, you may only need a little tiny bit. So you've got to waste all the rest of it. So it just seems pointless for me. So I don't really get many sick birds no more. So I like to make up my own, because that way I can make it as I need it. So maybe a little tiny bit extra, just as a backup. Now, you could, if you wanted to, if you have another sick bird who just has absolutely no energy, if you can't find out what's wrong with it, and it just seems to be down, not fluffed. So sometimes they do fluff up. It just doesn't seem to have much energy. What you could do is it doesn't eat very well. You mix up this, one part of this. Again, you can put one part of biscuit in with it again. And then you just put maybe the odd 1 or 2 drops of fresh honey. Now this honey is crystallised, because I've had it a little while now. We've had quite a lot of change in weather, hot weather, cold weather, etc. And then what you do is you set it in hot water for about an hour or so, maybe 2, and then you keep topping it up with hot water, and eventually it will liquidise. And then you can take out a couple of drops and put it in there. And by the time you finish with that and put it in the cupboard, it will stay liquidised for a while anyway. So, and then you just add that to there and mix that. And again, if you wanted to add a bit of egg white, you can do that. It's not a problem. You don't have to throw the whole egg away. You can still cook the rest of the egg yourself if you need to. But just take a bit of the egg white out, that's all. So you're not wasting anything. I'll say this is just say it's not a fantastic one. Well, it is actually. This is quite an old one. My dad had this when he was a child. Well, not a child, but when he was in his teens, and he's 70, nearly 80 or something like that. So about 70s. So he's been around a long time. And I'm 50. This is before I was born. So, and the biscuits, when you use biscuit, absolutely plain, just a plain biscuit. It doesn't have to be digestives. Just you can use rich tea, like that. Just a Tesco's home brand digestives. That's what I always use. As long as it's got nothing in it, like you don't want coconut in it, you don't want chocolate. Chocolate, definitely no chocolate, because chocolate is poisonous to your birds. So you don't want none of that. What else am I missing? I know I'm missing something. Let's say when you mix this stuff up, I add just a little tiny bit of water. Alright, just get this. Now, you don't need a lot. The texture you want is rather. Right, I'm going to use this to mix it. You'd be surprised once you've added a little tiny drop of water, it will really liquefy. So, and you'll find one teaspoon will actually fill that 2 or 3 times. So, and there's still loads in there. That's filled up right to the top. And then what I would do, put that on. So you'd have to improvise. So if imagine that I've already put the crushed biscuit in. I hadn't actually made any biscuit up crushed. I didn't think about it at the time. I should have done. But whenever you crush your biscuit down, always put it through that first, or else it may not go through your hot needle. But that should pass through there. It should do. I think it needs cleaning. Let's try and get that in there. No, it's not getting there. It's a little bit. I think that one's caught up. Yeah, it's a bit coarse. If I put it through the other one, you watch, it'll go straight through. No problem at all. Look, see, come straight out as a liquid form. There's no obstructions in there whatsoever. Now, I did want to say again, I don't know if I said it previously, but the younger the bird, the more liquefied you want it. The older the bird, the thicker you want it. So the bird's getting plenty of nourishment. And I don't ever feed a young chick if it's born that day. And I don't think the adult parents will feed them the first day either, because they're actually still living off of the yolk sac. And once that's all gone in, the next day they usually start feeding them. So I can't think of anything else to explain apart from, yeah, there is actually. The duration, if you have a sick bird, which is very, very underweight, well, the first thing you're going to need to do is get food into that bird. Make sure his crop make sure that the crop isn't packed out with food already, because if he's got, if the crop is not emptying, there's no point in putting food in there. So you may need to check. Sometimes you may need to take the food out of the crop, completely empty it. And you can do that using that. So you could take quite a lot of food out, as long as it's not like large chunky stuff. You can take the food out, and then you can put a solution in there to help clean it out and put fresh food in there. Because if the food is in the crop is rotten, it will make the bird very, very sick. So you need to take the food out and put new stuff in if that's the case. The duration of feeding them will depend upon the illness that the bird's got. Also, it will depend on how fast their crop is emptying. I usually wait until the crop gets about half full, quarter full, then I feed them again. Now, if the bird's got a lot of feathers around their neck, or if they're just generally a heavy feathered bird, you may not be able to see that, so you may not know. The idea is, first thing in the morning, chances are they're going to be hungry. So that's the time you start. That's the time when you first feed them. You can give them a full dosage, like at least one of these if it's an adultish bird, or if it's at least over a week old, it's going to take one of these. That's assuming it's a finch. If it's a very young bird, you'll probably you'll find out anyway when you feed it. You'll be able to see the food going into the crop, so you'll know roughly how much you can feed them, and you can see when the crop's actually emptying. So when it's looking a little bit empty, about a quarter full, then you feed it, you fill it back up again, and that could be every hour at first, and you will find as they get older, the bird gets older, they need feeding a bit less, not so like every hour. It's a little bit wider. So that's how I would normally do it. But the only thing is, when you feed them over a long period of time, you give them more. Whereas when they're younger, you give them small amounts very often. As they get bigger, you give them bigger amounts, but less often. So if that makes sense, because they tend to hold the food a lot longer. And also, when you give it to them, as they do get older, you make the food more thicker, because they don't want so much watery food. But they must have that water in there, or else it will dehydrate. Now, if you're not sure if your bird is dehydrating, turn the bird on its back, move the feathers away from its abdomen, and just carefully pinch the skin together. When you let go, it should just go nice straight back again. If it stays crinkled, or it takes a long time to go back, you know the bird's dehydrated. That's the easiest way to know. There are other places under the wing that you can try, and on the back, but the best place is on the belly, on the abdomen. Right, this stuff, polyade, and guardian angel. This is used when you have a bird which is probably close to death, or it's really underweight, and you know, it needs nourishment fast. These two you can mix up with your seed. And if you're not really sure, and if you don't have biscuits, you don't have to add biscuits. If you don't have eggs, you can just mix that and that together. So you've got just seed and that. Better to give it something than nothing. So this contains a lot of. It's packed with nutrition. One of them it boosts the immune system. So if there is a problem with immunity against any kind of bacterial infections and stuff, this will boost it. And the other one, the polyade, I believe, it gives the bird nutrition, very high concentration of nutrition. And of course, the seed helps bulk it out as well, so more of a solid. So they're really, really handy to have. And I find I feed that through the day, maybe a couple of days until the bird starts gaining weight. If the bird doesn't gain weight, sometimes your bird, it may lose weight continuously, which is known as going light. And that's because sometimes it may be a problem, which is it's been left for too long, and it's just you can't save the bird. Even if you've healed the bird and it got better, the problem inside is still, the damage is done. It's like some bacterials will destroy the liver or the kidneys or the pancreas, or just rot away certain parts of the internal organs, and no matter what you can get rid of the bacteria, but the damage is already done, so there's nothing you can do. And it's the only thing is it's kind of just let the bird go. Sometimes there is that happens, and I've known it. I've had birds where I've tried desperately to save them, and then I realised there was nothing I could do. I mean, I got rid of the bacterial infection, but the damage was done to the bird, so I had to let it go. So it was quite a sad moment. It does happen. The trick is to get food into them fast, get their immune systems working, get it protected with the polyade and the guardian angel. Now, I'll just show you again close up. That is the guardian angel. I'm not trying to advertise them, but they are really, really good and they're handy. And that one's polyade. So these two always go together. I've always used them together. I've had great success with them. I say this is it's Prolite. It's a prebiotic. It's probiotic. This is really, really good. It gives the bird instant energy, really. And again, it's the same as the honey. So there are other things you can give them. I could think of loads of stuff, but this is generally the stuff that you would need. So, but the bare minimum, you definitely need this syringe. Always use a brand new syringe every day. Don't use the same one the next day, because you'll carry any diseases over. If you notice that the bird is getting better and you're still using the same old needle, the chances are, the same old syringe, the chances are you're going to be transferring that disease from yesterday back into the bird. There is that possibility, especially since you're handling the bird and then you're handling this and then you'll be handling the bird again tomorrow. And always make sure you sterilise these before use and after use. Between feeds, sterilise it again. They've got to be kept clean, because you've got to eliminate any bacteria all the time. You've got to think bacteria, anything that's going to be transferable, or anything that can last on a needle, or anything, utilities, keep it all clean and you should be all right. And if you're not sure about doing stuff like this, if you've got doubts about being able to do it, you may just need either find someone else who can do it for you, or just take the bird to a vet. That's the only alternative, really. But be surprised. Something as simple as this can save your bird's life, or your chick's life, because there's quite often you might, especially breeding season, you've got like young finches that are breeding for the first time, and they toss out their chicks, and then they breed again, they toss out their chicks, and they don't know why. You don't know why, but they don't know what to do with them, because they've never had them before, and they just, or they're so excited they just like sitting on eggs. So anyway, I'm going to finish there, and I hope this video is of some use again, like I said on the last one. So if you find anything, any questions, or you find anything I haven't actually asked or mentioned in the video, just feel free to mention it in the comments, and I'll try my best to help you out. I mean, I could add a lot more stuff to it. I mean, I could think of a lot of things to add really, but the video would be hours and hours and hours and hours long. So I'm going to finish this video here, and again, thanks for watching.